Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation at Willamette Falls. I'm the Reverend Marcia Stannard, and it is a joy to be together on Zoom today. We have changed a part of our service in that because we're social distancing and almost none of us are in the sanctuary, we are not having our usual board member stand up and introduce themselves and read the announcements these days. But I do have a couple of very important announcements to make today that Greg Penner, our moderator, has empowered me to make. The first is that we are having our annual meeting on May 17th. We are doing it on the usual day, but we are doing it on Zoom because we can't gather together in person. Our bylaws state that we have a show of hands is how we do our ballot, and so we're going to be doing that on Zoom. And so if, for those folks who are not on Zoom, we will be mailing paper ballots to anyone who requests one and a few folks that we know who don't have email. If you know of someone like that, do let Tricia in the office know and we will get them a paper ballot mailed. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you right after the service on Sunday, May 17th, that's 2 weeks from today, where we will vote on our annual budget and we will vote on our board of trustees and our nominating team. We have two people who are going to be signing on for a new term on the board of trustees. Kirsten Reimert and Sheila Sullivan are both running for the board, and we look forward to voting on those folks and having them join our board of trustees. In addition, Mike Sweek will be running for a new 2-year term. He finished out a 1-year term this year, but now needs to be elected to a 2-year term himself. So we look forward to gathering together for that in 2 weeks. Also, if anyone is interested in joining our Path to Membership class right after service, put a note in the chat and let me know. Most folks, I know of 4 people who are coming to that already, but if you're interested, please send me a note in the chat and we'll get you signed up for that. Thank you. And now, let us take a breath and arrive together. I invite you, if you have a chalice or a candle in your house, to go get that, and we will light our chalice together. Many of you know our chalice lighting words by heart. Many of you were on the tidings list and received an email with our order of service in it. Will you join me? Whoever you are, wherever or whatever you come from, you are welcome here, where we are invited into connection and inspired to spiritual growth. Let us leave this hour together, refreshed anew, ready to ignite action for justice in the wider world. Our opening words this morning: may we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other. Come, let us worship together. And I invite you to join with Allison in our first hymn, Wake Now My Senses.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of the inner. Deep with the web of creation your vow. Living, receiving as love shows us now. Wake now now my reason reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end.
Our time for all ages this morning is Doubtful Guest by Edward Gorey. When they answered the bell that wild winter night, there was no one expected and no one in sight. Then they saw something standing on top of an urn whose peculiar appearance gave them quite a turn. All at once it leapt down and ran into the hall, where it chose to remain with its nose to the wall. It was seemingly deaf to whatever they said. So at last they stopped screaming and went off to bed. It joined them at breakfast and presently ate all the syrup and toast and a part of a plate. It wrenched off the horn from the new gramophone and could not be persuaded to leave it alone. It betrayed a great liking for peering up flues and for peeling the soles of its white canvas shoes. At times, it would tear out whole chapters from books or put roomfuls of pictures askew on their hooks. Every Sunday, it brooded and lay on the floor, inconveniently close to the drawing room door. Now and then, it would vanish for hours from the scene, but alas, be discovered inside a tureen. It was subject to fits of bewildering wrath, during which it would hide all the towels from the bath. In the night, through the house, it would aimlessly creep, in spite of the fact of its being asleep. It would carry off objects of which it grew fond and protect them by dropping them into the pond. It came 17 years ago, and to this day, it has shown no intention of going away. You are, as always, invited to make donations either to the church or to one of our social justice partners or to the Hope Food Pantry by going to our website, UUCWF, F as in Falls, and scrolling to the bottom to our donate button. It's a large yellow button, and you're able to make donations online there. You are also welcome to send in checks to the church, and Tricia takes those and deposits them like normal. I have several joys and sorrows today that folks have sent me in advance. If you have a joy or sorrow, you are also welcome to type it into the chat. We'll start with joys today. Joan and John Young are both healing well from different surgeries, and we are grateful that they are both continuing to heal. And Sheila Sullivan is very happy that her longest term friend, Carla, has had positive results from her cancer treatment. While there isn't a cure per se, she is able to fulfill her long-term dream of being able to move to Montana to be near her grandchildren. And we celebrate with Carla and with Sheila today. Are there any joys in the chat? Silas likes that I read a story. Yay. Okay, and then our sorrows. Brian Fassett reports that they are sorry that one of their old friends is in hospice with cancer, and we hold them in our hearts. Dan Tuggle reported that a colleague from the college passed away this past week, and he asks us to think of her family at this difficult time. Sorry, this is for Brian Fassett's friend. This is for Dan Tuggle's colleague. Ruth asks us to remember Jackie Griffith, a long-term member of this congregation who is now in a care facility. And last week, Jackie's last remaining sibling, her sister, passed away. We hold Jackie at this time. And Helen Sherman Rentz reported that her dear sister Martha has COVID-19 symptoms, but can't get a test until she has a fever in Maryland. She asks that we hold her and pray for her healing, and we pray that she will get better. We're going to go back to joys for a moment. Okay, I'm sorry, we have another. Okay. So Kelly Monahan's dear friend Michelle is having her sweet doggy euthanized today. Sorry. Mari's Aunt Anne passed away this week. We will hold her family, Mari. Laura Whipple is sorry they lost their rooster Daisy. And we have 3 birthdays. Anna Farmer and Mackenzie Cozart and Lyndon. Shoot, I'm blanking on Lyndon's last name right now. Danielle and Ryan's son, Lyndon.
Lyndon
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Anna, Lyndon, and Mackenzie. Happy birthday to you. I think that is all we have over here. And we hold all of these joys and sorrows in the loving embrace of our community. Will you pray with me? Spirit of life and love, for birthdays that remind us of joy and celebration, new things we can do, the continuing of life, and that new things happen at every age. We celebrate healing. We celebrate joy. We celebrate life going on. We mourn death. We mourn beloved pets and people taken from us too soon. We fear when our beloveds are ill. We fear the struggles that we are going through, that we go through at all times, but heightened in this one when we can't be together in person. Remind us, Spirit of life and love, that even though we can't reach out and touch each other, we can still be here for one another. We can still share our joys and our sorrows. We can still reach out and call or send notes. We are still together in many of the ways that count. Blessed be, and amen. Our reading today is from the Sufi poet Rumi, who writes, "This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door, laughing, and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond." I invite you to sing our doxology, Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. The shape of justice, fruits only close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Today, we are blessed with the Reverend Sharon Wiley, who is the minister at Chalice Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Escondido, California, who will be bringing us the sermon today. Sharon has served since 2012 as the minister at Chalice. Reverend Sharon is one of the co-founders and leaders of Spirit Rest Silent Retreat. She serves on the youth board of the Pacific Southwest District of the UUA and is president of the San Diego Regional Interfaith Collaborative. And we welcome Sharon.
Grief comes to my house sometimes. Comes in, unannounced, takes over. I, of course, will have been going about my day with my list of things to get done, working on my computer, paying bills, an ordinary day, And then the phone rings with unexpected news. Grief at the door, shoving its way in, putting its feet up on my coffee table, demanding a snack. I put away my computer and my bills go unpaid. Because now I have a guest, an unwanted guest, to tend to and make room for and live with. Grief comes in, and not only do I have to make room for grief, but now I have to deal with the emotions that come from living with such an unwelcome guest. My resentfulness at having my life disrupted, my yearning to return to how things were before, my frustration that my to-do list sits unfinished, my embarrassment that I paid my bills late. We are all living with an unwanted visitor these days. Coronavirus and the life changes we've had to make to take care of each other. And separate from that are all the other regular things we were already coping with before. Chronic illness, end-of-life decisions, addiction, struggles with mental health. Our ordinary lives disrupted by these guests who shove their way in and demand attention. And with them come not only their disruptions, but all the emotions their disruptions provoke: anger, fear, resentment, and worry. Unwanted visitors come in many forms. They aren't always earth-shattering bad news. Sometimes it's a news story that brings a feeling of overwhelm. Sometimes it's not our own lives touched, but worry for friends and family. Loved ones with addiction or depression or cancer. Sometimes a beloved pet is nearing the end of life. Sometimes painful memories arise for no apparent reason, demanding attention for old hurts and wounds. I shared this sermon topic with some clergy colleagues. One minister said it made her think of the ants in her house. Another minister thought of the tooth pain that had brought her to the emergency room this week. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. As a minister, it's my privilege to companion people as they cope with their unwanted visitors. What I observe in myself, in my own life, and what I see in other people's lives too, is that part of our struggle to cope with hard times is our belief that this isn't how things are supposed to be. This grief isn't supposed to be here. This illness, this hurt, this worry, this pain, these ants. Life isn't supposed to be this way. Except, of course it is. Life is all about coping with the unexpected and unwanted worries and struggles. It isn't actually the times of struggle and loss that are so unusual. It is the times when life is easy and happy, those times that are precious and to be savored. Buddhist monk and Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh tells a story. The night before the Buddha attained final enlightenment, he had a visit from the demon king Mara. Mara appears again and again in Buddhist teachings. The demon represents all that keeps us from enlightenment, all the anger, doubt, fear, striving, craving, and greed of the world. The night before the Buddha attained final enlightenment, Mara came to tempt the Buddha. Instead of ignoring Mara or fighting Mara, the Buddha calmly acknowledged Mara's presence, saying, "I see you, Mara." The Buddha then invited Mara to tea as an honored guest. What would our lives be like if, instead of struggling against our unwanted visitors, we simply acknowledged them and offered them tea? As long as they're going to be taking up space in our lives, why not simply bid them welcome? I see you, grief. I see you, anger. I see you, fear. I see you, worry. Make yourself comfortable here and have a cup of tea. When we are living with unwanted guests, in whatever form they are taking in our lives, aunts, depression, pain, a family member's illness, grief, we can lighten our burdens considerably by simply accepting that we have visitors. We have unwanted visitors. How are we supposed to live with such intruders? Well, first off, we lower our expectations for what is going to get done each day, right? We have guests. Guests take time and attention. We aren't going to run errands or take on big projects. We're going to keep things simple. What are the bare minimum things you need to do each day to take care of yourself and your home? My guess is that if you actually wrote down a list of what is the bare minimum things you need to do each day to take care of yourself and your home, your first draft would be far too long. It would not actually be the bare minimum. And maybe that's fine if what you're dealing with is ants, but you know it's too much if what you're dealing with is more serious. And what we are all dealing with these days is much more serious than ants. My bare minimum list has 6 things on it. They include going to bed by 10 p.m., brushing my teeth, and taking my vitamins. When I say bare minimum, I mean it. Now, some things I don't need to put on my bare minimum list because when I'm struggling, there are some habits that are so deeply ingrained that I don't struggle to maintain them. So for example, I never skip meals. I haven't skipped a meal in decades. I eat 3 meals a day and at least 1 snack. So eating meals is not on my bare minimum list because I don't ever need to remind myself of that. Some of you probably always keep the house clean, no matter how you're feeling. But maybe under stress, you stop exercising. Or, of course, you always get dressed in the morning, but under stress, you forget to drink enough water. You want your bare minimum list to remind you of the things you need to get done every day to take care of yourself and your home. No 2 people watching this will have the same list. Your list is particular to your situation and the things you struggle with. On my bare minimum list, I also have a list I call try. These are things that are great to get done when I can, but you know what? I am busy with my unwanted visitors in the house, so sometimes the try list gets done and sometimes not. My try list includes 30 minutes of exercise because it's great when I can do that every day. But I don't want to set an unrealistic expectation for myself that I have to do that every day. The bare minimum is really the bare minimum. And the try list is the things that can really help when I do have the time and energy to get them done. I do want to lift up the importance of exercise when you are coping with grief, with stress, with anything affecting your mood. I know a grief counselor who advises her grieving clients to focus on 2 practices for living with grief. The first is some sort of creative practice, journaling, drawing, knitting, anything creative. And the second practice is a form of regular exercise. Likewise, regular exercise has been shown to be as important as medication for living with a mental illness like depression. So this is the time to remind you that I'm not a doctor and I'm in no position to give you medical advice. I'm just letting you know that there is much evidence that regular exercise is one of the best things we can do to take care of ourselves when we are suffering and struggling. And of course, for many of us, regular exercise is one of the first things we drop when we are living with unwanted visitors. So I'm encouraging you to keep exercise on your try list. Make it a priority. We care for the spirit by caring for our bodies. You know this, yes? You know how you feel when you're tired, when you're hungry, when you've eaten food that hasn't nourished you. We are not in good spirits when our bodies are uncared for. And you also know how you feel when you've slept well, when you've eaten well, when you've had enough water. We are spiritually grounded when we take good care of our bodies. For most of us, our bare minimum list will focus on care for our bodies. I encourage you to include your spiritual practice on your try list. Spiritual practice is often one of the things we drop when we are living with unwanted visitors. Attending worship on Sunday is spiritual practice. Prayer is spiritual practice. Meditation is spiritual practice. Keep your spiritual practice on your try list. So many people have told me how Sunday worship helped them through hard times. If you don't feel like you're struggling right now, the idea of these lists may seem strange or extreme. How debilitated are those of us who need to remind ourselves to brush our teeth and go to bed at a reasonable hour? I keep my bare minimum list and my try list taped to the mirror in my bathroom. There may be 9 things total, 6 things on the bare minimum list and 3 on the try list. And many days, I don't even look at these lists. Many days, I go about my daily life without having to think about the bare minimum that needs to be done. But then one day, the phone rings, or I turn on the news, and what I see feels overwhelming. Or I get a text from a family member, or any one of a dozen things that can suddenly make the day feel hard. And on those days, on hard days, that's when I see that an unwanted visitor has arrived. I see you, I say. I see you, heartbreak. Pull up a chair, won't you? I want to offer you some tea since you're here. And I lower my expectations and I check my lists. What is it I need to do today? Oh, that's right. I need to take my vitamins. I need to brush my teeth. It would be really good if I could go for a half-hour walk. From Rumi, this being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door, laughing, and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. The acceptance of the unexpected doesn't mean that we don't take necessary actions. Of course, we need to respond responsibly. Going to the emergency room, taking medication, finding support groups. Please don't take lightly your feelings of despair or overwhelm. Depression is real and it takes many different forms. If you are experiencing ongoing tiredness, difficulty concentrating, joylessness, sadness, please talk to a doctor. And of course, you can also talk to your minister. When the demon Mara came to tempt the Buddha did not ignore Mara or fight him. Instead, the Buddha acknowledged Mara's presence, saying, "I see you." The Buddha then invited Mara to tea as an honored guest. When next your demons arrive at your door demanding entry, tempting you to give way to fear, to doubt, to worry, to anger, to frustration, may you neither ignore those feelings nor fight them. May you neither ignore your feelings nor fight them. Instead, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Serve them tea since they're here. Honor their presence. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be.
Listening to Reverend Sharon talk about Mara appearing to the Buddha, I was reminded of a friend of mine in college who said, when you have a nightmare, particularly if it's a nightmare with a monster, ask it to teach you a dance step. I invite you to settle in for a moment of silent meditation, listening to your own unwanted guests, listening to what is in your heart. I invite you to join together in our final hymn.
Now let us sing, 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 sing. Now let us sing, 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 sing. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Now let us sing to the power of the faith with. Now let us sing to the power of the faith. Sing, now let us sing to the power of the faith. Sing, lift up your voice, be not afraid. Now let us sing to the power of the faith within. Now let us sing to the power of the hope within. Now let us sing to the power of the hope within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Now let us sing to the power of the hope within. Now let us sing to the power of the love within. Now let us sing to the power of the love within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Now let us sing to the power of the love within. Now let us sing to the power of the joy within. Now let us sing to the power of the joy within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid. Now let us sing to the
If you lit a chalice or a candle in your home, I ask you to extinguish that now as we extinguish ours together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. As you go from this place into 6 inches over in this place, I invite you to think about this being human as a guest house. Everything travels in and out, and we remain. New things happen that are good or bad, or a mixture of both sometimes. Take deep breaths. Know that you are precious and loved. Go in peace and go in love, my friends. Blessed be, and amen.